Hey Jexiteers, thanks again for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, my name is Riley and I am a former Jehovah's Witness. As many of you know, I recently celebrated my 2nd birthday, and in celebration of that I've decided to do a Q&A video. So I asked for questions on my social media accounts and also on Patreon, and I got some really interesting and humorous questions which I will answer for you now. Okay, so the first one is from none other than Jehovah God himself. And he asks, would you rather eat hot dogs that taste like maggots or maggots that taste like hot dogs? Asking for a friend. So this question is in reference to a talk that was given by governing body member Tony Morris, where he spoke about all of Jehovah's enemies at Armageddon dying and being consumed by maggots.
What the fire did not consume, the maggots would. Now, I don't know if you know much about maggots, but you see a whole bunch of them. It's just not a pleasant sight. But what a fitting picture of the final end of all of God's enemies.
He also mentioned his experience of being in the Vietnam War and seeing charred bodies after they've been burned, and he likened it to hot dogs frying on a grill, believe it or not.
See, I was in Vietnam, a medic in that war. I've seen what happens to humans when they're mangled. You see it on TV and some of that. Well, till you smell human flesh burning from a helicopter crash. People that look like humans, like a hot dog on a grill, blackened and splitting open. I know what's coming at Armageddon. A lot of dead people. A lot of dead people.
And my answer to that question is neither, because I'm vegan. Okay, next question is from Apostate Sarah. Let me just say before I read the question that Sarah is an absolute legend. She's the unsung hero of the ExJW community. She really is. What she does for, you know, us ExJWs behind the scenes is just, she just goes above and beyond. So Sarah, thank you very much for all that you do. So Sarah says, happy birthday. Are you doing anything special to celebrate? Hope you have a yummy birthday cake with candles to blow out. My question, 2022, it will be 150 years JWs were founded according to Google. Do you think they will do anything to celebrate this? Enjoy your day. So first of all, I want to say, where Sarah says, are you doing anything special to celebrate your birthday? She knows full well what I was doing to celebrate my birthday, because she played a key role in planning my surprise birthday party. So this was all just her being undercover. Once again, thank you so much for that, Sarah. It was great. I did have birthday cake. I had a candle in the shape of the number 2, not a number 2, the number 2. And so do I think witnesses will do anything to celebrate 150 years? I don't know, really, to be honest. I mean, there was some, in the year 2014, there was some kind of special significance because it had been 100 years since the start of the last days. Don't get me started on that. They did mark it. It wasn't quite a celebration, but they did mark it in some way. Maybe they might do the same. But then on the other hand, I think they'd be keen to play down the length of time that has passed since the organization being founded and Armageddon not coming yet. I don't think they're in any hurry to remind everyone of just how long it's been. So to answer your question, I'm not sure. Okay, the next question is from Raphael Parisi. And the question is, happy birthday. What was your first birthday present since leaving the witnesses? Very, very good question. My first birthday present after leaving the witnesses was actually a customized whiskey glass. So my girlfriend Marsha and I are very, very much whiskey aficionados. Well, actually, she's the whiskey aficionado. I just have that status by proxy. So she bought me a customized whiskey glass with my name and year of birth on it. And we also had some small samples of different whiskies from all over Scotland. And they were really, really good. Okay, the next question is from Michael Pilling. And he says, happy birthday. What is the most fun sport to play? And why is it golf? Funny. The most fun sport to play, funnily enough, isn't golf. It's jousting. So years ago, when my kids were really small, they had these like little scooters. And we would go out into the garden and we would joust. So we'd go to opposite ends of the garden. We'd have a scooter each and a broomstick. This sounds really, really dangerous. And we would basically just scoot at each other and lunge at each other with the end of the broomstick, trying to knock each other off the scooters. So yeah, that was like our modern day jousting sport. And it was a lot of fun, an awful lot of fun. Okay, next question is from none other than Marsha herself. And Marsha's question is, how are you so wonderful and handsome? Oh, thank you, babe. All I can say to that is, I aim to please. Okay, and the next question is from Ralph Cifaretto's Toupee. I don't know why he has that name. I don't even know what it means or what it's in reference to. But this is actually Matt from the Irregular Pioneer channel, one of my favorite ExJW channels. It really helps me out a lot when I was waking up. And his question is, who is your favorite ExJW rapper? I'm not quite sure what to make of this question, to be honest, because the only ExJW rapper I know of is ExJW Fifth, Cliff Henderson. But you could also mean rappers who were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses as children, but not necessarily ExJW rappers. There are many rappers that fall into that category. Rappers I know of who were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses, and please don't quote me on this, I might not be 100% accurate, but from what I've heard, Jay-Z, Notorious B.I.G., Ja Rule, DMX, Exhibit, Chaos, Phife Dawg from A Tribe Called Quest, they were all raised as Jehovah's Witnesses. So if I had to choose one of those, it would have to be Biggie, because Biggie is my favorite solo rapper of all time. My favorite group is A Tribe Called Quest. So yeah, those are three answers to your question. Cliff Henderson, aka Fifth, Phife Dawg, and Biggie. And the next question is from Jane Asa. You may remember Jane from one of my earlier ExJW interviews. She was anonymous, wearing an anonymous mask. Jane actually has three questions for me, and the first one is, what's your party drink of choice? Good question. The truth is, I don't actually have one. I don't think I've mentioned this on the channel before, but I'm an amateur mixologist. I mix cocktails as a hobby. So the honest answer to that question would be all of them. And the second question is, what's next on your Jexit list? Okay, so I'm not actually doing that in order. So for those of you who don't know, I've got a list of things that I'm working my way through. It's sort of like an ExJW bucket list, things that I want to do now that I couldn't have done when I was a witness. So I've recently added something else to that list, and that is to donate blood. There's a very good reason for this. So many of you may know AltWorldly. He's an ExJW as well. He has a channel which is superb, by the way. You should all go and subscribe to it right now. And he was recently ill. Cut a long story short, a blood transfusion saved his life. So if it weren't for people who donated blood, the ExJW community would have lost, a really, really good voice, and I would have lost a friend. So I kind of see it as a responsibility to pay that forward. So yeah, I'm going to donate blood. But that's not necessarily the next thing I'm going to do. Actually, I know what the next thing I'm going to do is. The next thing I'm going to do is vote, because the local elections and the London mayor elections are coming up on May the 6th. And I've already been doing my research on the candidates so that I use my vote wisely, as it's the very first time I've voted in my life. So yeah, that is the next thing on my bucket list. The third and final question is your favorite non-religious book. This is a sad answer. I don't really have a favorite non-religious book because, to be honest, I'm not really an avid reader. Reason for that is that as a Jehovah's Witness, you know, I've mentioned this many, many times, that the schedule of a Jehovah's Witness is extremely, extremely busy. You're either at the meetings, on the ministry, preparing for the meetings, or preparing for the ministry. And that's when you're not working or sleeping. So all my life, I mean, I love books, but all my life I felt guilty for reading them. Because if I was ever reading a book that wasn't a JW book, I just felt guilty. I felt to myself, you know, the time that I'm using to read this book, I could be reading the Watchtower magazine. I know, it's sad. So I haven't really done a lot of reading of non-religious books, so I can't really answer that question. I don't really have a favorite. But that is something that I would like to change in the near future. Okay, the next question is from my good friend Ronnie. And the question is, how do you maintain joy without your children? That is a really, really good question, and it's going to be a very, very difficult question to answer. From the moment each of my children were born, they were my pride and joy, my most precious possession, each and every one of them. I would often say to them that the best job that I've ever had was being a father. And as they got older, the relationship I had with them just got stronger, particularly towards the end of my marriage, for reasons that I won't necessarily go into. They became my closest friends. So losing them was just a huge blow on so many different levels. Being a Jehovah's Witness was responsible for so much sadness and loneliness and depression and anguish in my life that now that I'm not a witness, it makes it a lot easier to deal with difficult things and distressing situations. To use an analogy, it's like running with a weighted backpack. That backpack is heavy, it slows you down, you're less able to run, you're encumbered. But remove the backpack and you're unencumbered, you're freer, you're stronger, you're able to run faster. You could be running along exactly the same terrain, exactly the same trail, but the circumstances are now different and you're better able to cope with it. That's what it's like now, coping with the loss of my children. That doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It still hurts. It hurts every day. But there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that losing my children as a witness would have completely finished me. That would have been it. I wouldn't be here making this video answering this question. Moving on. The next question is from my friend Johnny Halfhead. Happy birthday, top man. I'll throw you a weird one in. Do you think the JW headquarters in the US has built in an arms bunker into the new builds? That's a curveball. Yes, it definitely is a curveball. My answer to that is no. I don't think that they've built an arms bunker into the building. I think they've probably built some kind of a bunker or a shelter for when, you know, the Great Tribulation comes. They've probably done that, but I don't think it has any weapons in it. Next question is from my good and dear friend Jean. Are you getting drunk and eating vegan cake? Yes and yes. Next question from Deborah Allen. Are those contact lenses or just beautiful eyes Jehovah gave you? Not flirting, just curious. Oh.
I know you make me blush.
To answer your question, no, I don't wear contact lenses. Okay, next one is from James Winner. Happy birthday. Just listen to your interview with Lloyd. What is the most non-JW thing you've done since you left? Ooh. Oh boy, if only you knew. I can't answer this question because I need to keep everything PG-13. Suffice it to say that on the list of sins that you could, quote unquote sins, that you could commit in the JW religion, this thing is like way up there. It's like way, way up there. It's nothing that has hurt or would hurt anyone. But according to the doctrines of JWs and, you know, their judgmental outlook on life, it would have been really, really, really bad. But in the grand scheme of things, in the actual real world, no, it's not bad. But that doesn't mean that I can tell you what it is. And the less said about that, the better. Moving on, Nicola Williams says, happy birthday. Are you comfortable with celebrating your birthday? Yes, I am. My birthday was absolutely fantastic. I loved every minute of it. But my first birthday was really fantastic, but I did feel some guilt, a little tiny bit, not much, a little tiny bit of guilt, but this time around, none whatsoever. Okay, next one is from my good friend and fellow ExJW YouTuber. Again, link in the description. Go and subscribe right now. Johanna Greene, and she says, what role did your partner play in waking you up? And did they know before you did that you'd been in a cult? Very, very, very good question. And the answer is Marsha played a huge role in waking me up. I've spoken about this many, many times before, but Marsha, and I'm not saying this just as flattery. When I say this, I 100% mean it. Marsha is by far the most decent, principled, honorable, moral person I've ever met in my entire life. And she's the kind of person that I was raised to believe only existed in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So after I met her, got to know her, fell in love with her, that completely blew that whole idea out of the water. And that was really like one of the very early steps in me waking up, is realizing that the stigma that the organization places on non-witnesses or quote unquote worldly people was just completely false. So yes, huge part. She played a huge part in me waking up. And the second question was, and did they know before you did that you'd been in a cult? Absolutely, yes. Marsha's a very smart woman, but very respectful. So she, didn't want to disrespect my beliefs, because I was POMI, physically out, mentally in, when we met. And for that, the first almost a year and a bit of our relationship, I was, I still believed that Jehovah's Witnesses had the truth. So she, she was always very respectful of my beliefs, but she knew it was a cult from day one, as did many of my friends. I've only recently come to realize that many of my friends knew it was a cult all along, and they'd always been worried about me. In fact, one of my closest friends has a relative who died in Waco. And this is something that I've only come to learn in the past couple of months. And they were always worried about me being a witness, because they know what cults are all about. So, yeah. And the next question comes from Christina Nikki. Happy birthday. How does it feel celebrating your birthday after not doing so prior? It feels great. It feels absolutely fantastic. It feels so good that I just think to myself, how on earth could somebody deny someone experiencing this their whole life? It's just really, really cruel. It's extremely cruel. Why would you not want to make somebody feel special and loved and appreciated and valued? Well, I know the answer. The answer is because you want them to be so diminished that you can control them and use them and exploit them. That's the reason. But knowing the reason doesn't make it any less cruel. So yeah, in answer to your question, it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I'm going to be celebrating my birthday every single year for the rest of my life. And not just my own birthday. I actually now really enjoy celebrating other people's birthdays. Whenever anyone mentions to me that, when their birthday is, I immediately go and make a note of it so that I can wish them a happy birthday, when it next comes around. I'm very, very fastidious about that. Okay. And the next question is from Donna Stevenson. If you could travel back in time, would you choose to have woken up or left the organization sooner? Or are you happy to accept the timing of things as they have happened? Very, very good question. Every now and again, I think to myself, if only I'd left sooner. But if I had left sooner, I wouldn't have met Marsha. Things had to happen in exactly the way that they did for us to meet. And obviously, I'm glad that we did meet, so I wouldn't go back and change anything, no. Okay, and the next question is from my good friend John Sequoia. Do you plan to do this form of activism indefinitely like Lloyd and others, or is it just something you want to do for the time being and take a break and pop in from time to time? Very, very good question. Very good question. And the answer to that question is I can't really see myself not doing this. This feels very much like a calling. But at the same time, times change, things change. So, you know what they say never. But for the moment, this is a long-term thing. And John Sequoia has another question. Can you say 3 nice things about Uncle Tony? 3 nice things about governing body member Tony Morris III.
Eight hours later.
Okay, next question. How do you feel about Lloyd? Not as an activist, but as him being a Man U fan. Very good question. So, I'm a Liverpool fan, which means that all Man U fans are my natural enemy. But personally, I don't have any animosity towards Manchester United. I honestly don't. The football teams that I really can't stand are Chelsea and Southampton. Man U and their fans, obviously there's a long-standing rivalry there, but personally I don't have any problem with them at all. And the next question is from Sophia Sirena, who is one of the long-time supporters of my channel. Thank you so much for all of your support. Happy birthday. My partner and I just celebrated his birthday this past weekend. So far, he has decided not to return to the organisation. Still POMI though. My question is, what can a Never JW do to help the ExJW community? First of all, belated happy birthday to Mr. Sophia Sirena. You ask a very, very interesting question. One of my biggest frustrations is that the harmful and damaging practices of this organisation go widely unnoticed by the world in general. And it's just the nature of ExJW activism that most of our content is consumed by other ExJWs or current JWs who are either waking up or have woken up but for some reason can't leave the organisation. I don't believe it's that way by design. It's just an unfortunate downside of being an activist in such a small niche. So I think how non-JWs can help is basically by raising awareness amongst other non-JWs about what this organisation is really about. And also by supporting us wherever you see us, much like you yourself have been doing from practically day one of my channel, which I am extremely grateful for. Thank you. And the next question is from my good friend Gaia121. Who is your favourite ExJW YouTuber and who grates? I don't really have a favourite ExJW YouTuber. I have a lot of ExJW YouTubers that I really, really like. I have favourite ExJW YouTubers for different things. Alright, so my favourite ExJW YouTuber in terms of information would be Lloyd Evans. My favourite in terms of unpacking the emotional side of leaving the witnesses would have to be someone like RozNYC. When I'm a little bit angry and I want to vent in a vicarious way, it would have to be CoachDeeFree. When I want to have a good old laugh, it would have to be Jay the Comedian and Wally from JW Thoughts. And when I want to hear something really, really thought-provoking, it would have to be AltWorldly. That's a long list, but I've answered the question as honestly as I possibly can. I have favourite YouTubers for different things. Okay, next question is from Extremely Large Slug. When you first became fully awoken to the JW indoctrination and was able to label the religion false, did you feel compelled to look into any other religions to see if they had the truth before you chose atheism? Thanks for doing this Q&A. Thank you for, such a great philosophical question. That's really interesting. First of all, I just want to clarify that I don't necessarily identify as an atheist. I lean towards atheism because I don't believe in a deity. But at the same time, I haven't ruled out the possibility of the world and everything on it being created by someone or something. If it is the case that the world was created by someone or something, to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that, for want of a better word, creator is a deity that should be worshipped. I mean, I don't subscribe to that idea at all. So I guess that would kind of make me an agnostic, but even still, I don't think that term accurately describes what my beliefs are on this issue. Okay, so on to your question. Did I feel compelled to look into any other religions? Yes and no. I didn't feel compelled to look into any other organized religions, but I did feel compelled to satisfy an inherent spiritual need. And I felt that way for quite some time. It may simply be because of the voids that the JW religion left inside me. I felt that I had to fill it in some way, but I definitely didn't want to fill it with another organized religion. Now I feel like that void is much smaller than it was previously. But instead of filling it with anything traditionally spiritual, I fill it with philosophical ideas. For example, trying my best not to harm anyone or anything, and also trying to live a life that is balanced. I very much feel that life is all about balancing opposing forces, and that when something goes wrong in your life, it's usually, not all the time, but usually because you're either doing too much of one thing and not enough of something else, or there's too much of something in your life, or there's not enough of something else in your life. So trying to bring all of these things into balance and harmony, that's my general life philosophy. And also I try very hard to avoid extremes. I try to avoid extremes in actions, extremes in thoughts, and extremes in belief. And one way that I do that is by avoiding using words like all and never. I avoid saying them and I avoid thinking them in my head, especially when it comes to people as individuals or as groups, whether those groups are ethnic, racial, social, or political. And the final question is from my valued patron, Jen Elm. Happy birthday. I turned 40 the year I was fully awake last year, and I had a grand celebration. I highly recommend it. My question, now that you are fully awake about the JW religion, what do you believe now? At least as far as Christianity, the Bible, etc. are concerned. Maybe you are still on that journey, but I am curious since this was and is a big aspect of waking up for me. If you are still on that journey, what research are you doing or will you do in that regard? Good question, Jen. I guess I kind of answered a lot of this in the previous question, but speaking specifically about Christianity and the Bible, I no longer believe the Bible to be the inerrant word of God. There are several reasons for that, but I'll just give you one, which is really the main one for me. If the Bible were written by a morally superior being, why does it contain things that reflect the morals of the time in which it was written, things that we know now to be immoral? And when I say that it contains things that we know now to be immoral, I'm not talking about commentary. I'm not talking about speaking about things that are immoral. I'm talking about advocating things that are immoral. If anyone has an answer to that question, I'd be happy to hear it. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening to the answers to all of those questions. I absolutely love doing Q&A videos, and I'm definitely going to be doing more of them in the future. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please proceed to the Jexit in an orderly fashion, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching to the very end of the video. If you haven't already done so, please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you like my work and want to help me continue doing it, please support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Jexit_2020. And with that, I'd like to sincerely thank these very special patrons who make these videos possible.